A little bit about myself. I think I told two or three of you before we started this. I was born in Greeley, Colorado. My dad was a chemist. Worked for Great Western Sugar. One day he woke up and told my mom that wasn't for him, and he was gonna go be a border agent down in New Mexico, in Nogales, I think, or Nogales. And mom, years later, I find this out. She's like, I never thought your dad would ever leave me, but I swear to God, I didn't think he was coming home. I mean, that was the early 70s, no phones. Gone for 2 weeks, showed up one day and said, pack up your stuff. I bought at a True Value store in St. Francis, Kansas.
Nice, St. Francis.
Yeah, neat little town, I tell you what. So we moved out there in the early 70s. That's where I was raised. Went to college at Fort Hays State. And my wife at the time, unfortunately, 20 years of marriage didn't work out, but that happened. And but she got me into criminal justice at Fort Hays State, and then we moved here in 1990. And I really thought for, the first 5 years, this will be it's a neat little town. It's a metropolis compared to St. Francis. But I'll work here 5, 6 years, get some experience, and go somewhere else. But the good Lord kept me here, I think for a reason. This town's been very good to me, and I like giving back as much as I can. I became interim chief in December 2019, and 2020 hit, and we all know what happened there. So I was the interim chief, I think the longest one ever in the city of Emporia history, for like 16 months before I got promoted in 2021, and here we are. But I've enjoyed it. A lot of learning curves when you're not out working the streets, and you're like, everyone asks me like, Ed, what's it like to be in the chief? And I'm like, I'm just a chief financial officer for the police department. They're not like kiss babies and do budgets, which I did all day today. What I normally do is go through this. You got a clicker, or are you my clicker?
Oh, I'm your clicker.
All right. Our mission, and I'll get into that here in a minute too. The mission of the Emporia Police Department is to keep Emporia safe by reducing crime, ensuring resident safety, and building trust in community partnerships. One of my main goals when I became chief is correct our communications in our department. And quite frankly, throughout eastern Kansas, it's just horrible. You would think law enforcement would share information, but for some reason, we're not very good at it, but we're getting better. We're going through an accreditation process. I don't know, I haven't really put that out to public yet, but I think that's very important. We will be state accredited, not national accredited. And what that does just makes us more professional than we already are, a more policy driven, and kind of helps us if we ever end up in litigation of any sort. It just mitigates those problems. And that's a 2-year process. We started that last November. Very interesting, very, I kind of, after about 3 weeks of that, I'm like, maybe I bit off more than I can do. Woo, a whole lot of work. But I think it'll be worth it at the end of the day. And that goes along with building trust in our community partnerships. Doing something like that and just being as transparent as we can is very important to me. Our org chart, we are budgeted for 43 officers, and unfortunately, like everyone else in the country right now, and for that matter the world, we're having a heck of a time hiring officers. We hired nobody in 2023, but thankfully nobody left, and we were down 8 officers, which is a shift and a half in the department our size. But we're slowly getting them back. I think are back up to 38, 39, which is good. We've hired 4 guys in the last 2 months, which is very nice, very good people, young men, young women, awesome.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
in terms of hiring, how competitive are salaries? I mean, are we competitive?
We are now.
We are now.
Yeah, we weren't a year ago. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. And our Deputy Chief Risley and I, when we interview potential candidates, when we offer them a conditional offer, we let them know that this town is very busy. I mean, we're a very busy police department. People get shocked when they come here and do ride-alongs with us on the amount of stuff we deal with. It's not Mayberry, like Emporia Chat says we are. This town is very busy. We do have serious crimes, and we have lots of drugs and lots of domestic violence, and I mean, the whole gamut. I've ridden along with larger sized departments. We do the same thing they do every day that we're out here on patrol. But a year ago, we went through a comp study the city did with our new city manager, Trey Cochran, and we based our pay scale off of almost similar to Topeka, not quite. I mean, they're rather large, we're not, but we're very competitive with a lot of the bigger cities, Garden City, Pittsburgh, you know, departments our size. I will say we're probably in the top 5 throughout the state right now, which is very good. But
That helps recruitment.
yeah, well, I'll tell you, you know,
And retention.
people get mad at me when I say it, but when you're throwing money at people, it's like a Band-Aid. It's just gonna wear off, you know, and a lot of guys down there got some pretty hefty pay raises when we got through with this, and now they're kind of, well, where's the rest of it?
Yeah.
That's all you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can see we have 3, got the deputy chief, Kevin Risley, I have 3 captains, investigations division, patrol, and our support service captain, and broke down into 4 shifts in patrol. We went to 12-hour shifts in the pandemic because we didn't want anybody in the building. Get out and don't come in here. Be careful when you're out there. And the guys and gals, they fell in love with it and decided they want to stay on 12-hour shifts. I'm like, oh, okay. But at the time, we didn't really have enough to field a bunch of 8-hour shifts and do what we need to do.
Is that 4 days and 4 12-hour shifts?
Yep, yep. And we worked 6A to 6P and 6P to 6A. And then our investigations division, supposed to have 3 detectives, and then we have what we call investigators. They're patrolmen that we move in there. 5 years of experience to give them a little taste of, you know, kind of broaden their field of law enforcement and give them 5 years of investigative experience, which has been very helpful. When they come back out on the street, they're that much more knowledgeable and a whole lot of good training. And then 1 evidence tech. And our support service captain, he oversees animal control, our records division, crossing guards. We only have 1 left, and no more parking enforcement. I'm not gonna talk about that because I'm kind of don't show this to my boss. We have 1 commissioned part-time civilian that comes in. He's a retired trooper, and he helps us do super loads and stuff through town. Frees up a lot of our patrol guys.
Super loads.
The big Souders manufacturer, when they bring those giant
Oh,
containers through
helps
town.
with traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Is that the turbine blades too?
Well, we did that, the blades, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a nightmare. We had a lot of people working that. Yeah. Next one.
Yeah.
And kind of went through that. We can get that one here. Calls for service. So these are 2023. Total calls for service. And this is just through our dispatch center. 22,230 calls for service.
Wow.
That does not include like we call them self-initiateds with our patrol guys, even our detectives. If they go out and just stop the car and
See
get a
something.
crime off of that. These are just totals through our dispatch
911.
center.
How does that compare to other communities our size? Is that higher then or about?
I would have to say, without checking out their calls for service, but I would put us probably higher, to be honest with you. I mean, it's probably no different than most other jobs, but there seems to be like, instead of days that we're busy, we have weeks that we're busy, and then we'll have a couple days off that we don't call busy, but are busy.
Yeah.
And, yeah, normal.
So Chief, is this, I mean, this is revelation to me.
Yeah.
see this number. I don't know if the Emporia community truly appreciate all that's happening by and large without their awareness, which is, I think, a lovely police enforcement. So, I mean, there's like an end of the year report. Are you ever interviewed by KBOE? No, because that, and so you have a sense the public is, it could just be. The public kind of knows how hard the police departments work.
Steve has me on KBOE 2-3 times a year. We always talk about this, and then, we have our Citizens Academy, which is going on now, and I love it just
Yeah,
because of
it is.
this. And B, I want to do, we're gonna try to kick off. There's a lot of work involved to get all that coordinated and stuff to do it every year. This is the first one we've done since 2020, not 2019. And I'd like to really get one with younger teenage, older teenage kids to some 20-year-olds up at ESU, just to, it is an eye-opener.
Yeah.
We try to invite a lot of diverse socioeconomic people in this town, just so people can understand, hey, you don't do nothing in our neighborhood. Well, yeah, we do.
What kind of communication exists between the sheriff's office and you guys?
We get along very, very, very well.
I mean, but if I call the sheriffs living out in the country, I mean, do you give a copy of that, or would they just defer? I mean, send me to you if I would.
If you live in the county, you'll call the dispatch center, and they will send a deputy to you out in the county. But
Okay.
if you are having a big problem and there's no more deputies out, we always come out and help them. Or if we get in a big mess in town, they're
There,
here to help us too. Yeah. Yeah. To allude on that a little bit, I was in Oklahoma City at some leadership training 2019, 2018, and in a room this size full of cops from all over the country. And Captain Mattis at the time, he's like, geez, I think I was still a lieutenant. You're not speaking up, man. You usually, chime in with your thoughts. And I go, we're not doing so bad in Emporia, when we're driving down there, three of, our admin people, and we're just talking, oh, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. And when you get down there and listen, it's like, how do you guys even? I mean, you don't care about nothing, it just blew my mind. I'm like, we're doing pretty good here, and I like to brag about it. We get along great with the fire department. Sheriff Cope was an EPD officer when he started.
Oh.
Yeah. And he ran off to Nebraska and was gonna be a rancher for a while, and then he decided he'd come back here. Yeah, so we kind of grew up. He got hired right after I did. He got hired in December of 1990. So we get along well. Those average out on the month. Okay, someone pointed it out to me here a while ago. We don't have January in there. Yeah. I didn't make this slide, so I gotta let my captain know. But you can see it's pretty even across the board as far as calls for service. It doesn't matter if it's cold or warm or hot.
Does having the university in session, does that make a difference?
Yes, we have a lot more calls for service when our town grows by 5,000-6,000.
We should still do.
Yeah, yeah.
How does that work with the university having its own police department?
They're like the sheriff's office. Chief Cook and I get along great. They've helped us out a lot when we've been shorthanded, and when they have something big on campus, they usually call us to come up. Or at least our detective division will go help them out with a lot of cases.
That's good. You're dispatching for ESU now too, weren't you?
Yep. Yeah. We took it all. Roxy's not happy, but she's doing well.
Do you want to advance?
Yeah. Those were the criminal cases in 2023, and that's just from the uniform crime report that we send to the feds.
What kind of fraud do we get here?
Do what?
Well, you had 387 fraud cases.
Oh, yeah,
What kind of fraud?
theft, fraud, embezzlement.
Okay, so those are like stripping the books sort of
Uh-huh.
things, or?
Uh-huh. There's a lot of that in this town. Really is.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. You know, I will say this about our younger generation. You see when I was in patrol, even as a sergeant, you probably quadruple that number for the DUIs that we used to get here.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if it's just we don't have time to run a lot of traffic, which we don't, but, kids just don't drink and drive like they used to.
As a former high school teacher,
Uh-huh.
they don't drive as much as they used to.
No, no,
I mean, they're just not, they're not into having cars and all the stuff.
Right.
I mean.
right. But I think we've done a good job of educating the hazards of drinking and driving. And see if I got that one right.
You know, if we could get on the education of getting off your cell phone and driving.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah. We did not have 3 actual murders in 2023. They were classified, and that's where UCR gets mixed up a lot with our paperwork. Those were attempted murders that we have, I think one of them actually went to court here the other day, but got pled down. But you can see we're busy.
I mean, if there were murders, we'd have Hollywood here by now, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we would. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, in 2009, when I got promoted to lieutenant, literally 2 months later, I had the first murder of 2009. 2 months after that, we had another murder, and 2 months after that, we kept our division busy for 2 years
Wow.
with 3 murders in 6 months. And we don't want that anymore. We don't want that.
When you compare that to other communities, is that very similar?
I would say so. You know,
Of Fort Hays, of Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Other towns with like circumstances?
you know, every community has narcotics problems.
Yeah.
Every one of them. I put a lot of it, you know, you look at society right now as a whole, because I try to keep up with current events and whatnot, and you look at our society right now, everybody seems to be struggling, so your theft cases are gonna go through the roof. Your burglaries are gonna go through the roof, your robberies are gonna be higher, just because people are struggling, and what do they do when you might lose your mind for 10 minutes and do something that you regret
Yeah.
later on.
Governor Brownback was governor, he kind of put the spotlight on trafficking.
Yeah.
Human or drug?
Say again, human, I'm sorry, human trafficking. I mean, I'm sure there's trafficking everywhere.
There is.
Yeah.
Even here, you know why? What do we got out west of town?
Vito Junction?
No,
West.
west of town,
The truck
Oh,
stop.
truck stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I know my son's a truck driver.
Yeah.
And, I know that there's an effort to enlist truck drivers to help out
Yeah, report.
when they see
Yeah.
things at the truck stops.
We had, just last week or 2 weeks ago now, Sheriff Cope's training, we had a 4-hour training with the KBI and their human trafficking division. So they can do real-time software that shows who's in your town, soliciting for money, and, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that day, thankfully, there was only one. He's like, I checked it a couple weeks ago and there were half a dozen, but there was only one on the day of training, so. But yeah, that's, still a big push.
It should be.
Yes.
It's just
I
horrific to imagine.
completely agree.
Caught up in that.
That's a continue on, I think.
Okay.
By months, I guess, or no, by stats, should be a little extra bar graphs.
Okay, do we want to stay or move
Yeah,
on?
let's do it, let's keep going. Those are moving violations and accident reports, I like to tell people, it's just the driving here is horrible.
Yeah.
You know, my wife gets mad at me for driving around in my pickup, and she's like, you got some road rage. I'm like, I can't help it. You know, I can't pull them over, I'm in the pickup, you know, but yeah. Way too many accidents and, way too many moving violations.
Is it, so, you know, my kids, the first two, I think, were able to take driver safety at the high school. But the last two, we had to go to Topeka.
Yeah.
And for families who can't afford that or don't have a
Mhm.
parent. So is that, how do kids get driver safety training?
Well, you either have to go to Topeka or a bigger city, or sometime, we used to have a private business that would teach it here in Emporia. I don't think they do it anymore. And I'm glad you brought that up, because a couple years ago, we had a traffic safety seminar, and KDOT came down and they said, you know, you wanna know why people can't drive no more? And I'm like, well, geez, you have the answer. You should probably retire. And he goes, because we don't teach drivers that in school. And he goes, you watch these kids drive, they just, and he goes, be honest, and I had to be honest, so who in here drove around with their child to get the 50 hours of driving that you're supposed to do?
I did.
I didn't. I rode with made my ex-wife do it, because I drove with my oldest son, and he's a curb hugger, and I'll never forget, I'm sitting, I'm like, oh my God, you're gonna hit that car. He went,
My dad had a car agency and we sold a lot of cars if we taught Junior how to drive.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natchez.
that's good.
Yeah. it's true.
Yeah, but it
So
would
when
be,
I lived here, we had, gosh, there were 10 driver's ed teachers in the
Yeah.
summer.
Oh, yeah.
And
And
one
when-
guy
I
taught
don't
the
even
class, but then there were 10 people who
Yeah.
actually went out.
When we had an industrial ed department that taught teachers how to teach industrial
Yeah.
ed, we had a driving simulation
Yeah,
laboratory
yeah.
at
I
ESU.
don't think it's
Yeah.
even,
Really?
licensed at the
They had a
state
driving
level.
simulator out in Emporia High too. I remember that when I
Oh.
worked here.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
while I was dean.
There was about
Yeah.
25 simulators.
Yeah, Bob Wilbur used to do that program.
well, they
I
don't
assume
do
it
that,
just died when
it
he.
would be better than what we got now.
That's right. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah. Next one. This is some of our,
Jeopardy.
what we call special units. Of course, bike unit, which we are not doing full-time now because we don't have enough people to do it, but if we ever get full staffed, I plan on bringing that back to at least, spring, summer, and fall. It's very good. I call it a very good way to community police. It's very approachable. I met a lot of people when I was on bike patrol for 10 years. Special response team, our defensive tactics instructor. This is a big one in today's world, the cell phone forensic. We have software that, you know, if you're committing a crime, everyone has their phone now, and your phones don't lie when we dig into them.
Do you need a warrant for that?
Depends. Most of the time, yes. I'm a big firm believer in warrants because I was in narcotics. I get warrants for everything. And our judges are fair, but they're pretty, and our detectives are very smart. They know when to apply for one and when not to, and we've always been very good at doing that. I always call it the CYA effect. If you don't go to suppression hearings when you have a warrant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, nobody gets in trouble.
Yeah. Another big one is our crisis intervention team. That's something I started a couple years ago too, which is very important in today's world with all the mental health problems that we're having. Unfortunately for our profession, we are not only law enforcement, but we're counselors and school teachers and parents, unfortunately. And, so that's very good training to have. So hopefully we can recognize when someone's struggling and not take any action that's not needed.
You know, I'm part of the Citizen Review Board.
Yeah.
And so for the child in need of care, so when we have a hearing, then we have all this documentation, and of course, it all starts with, almost always, a police visit
Yep.
And the reports described just horrific. I mean, just, it's unimaginable. And to think of these men and women who are trained to be hardened emotionally, I think, and then to be so soft when they see these children that have just been neglected.
Well, and we also do it for us. I can't remember the average, just non-law enforcement citizen might have, I think they said like 30 traumatic events in their entire life that they think is traumatic. When you're in our profession, that's
weak.
is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the old days, our lieutenants and captains would be like, come on, keep it down, rookie. You'll forget about it later. Well, you don't forget about it. It's,
Well, these community volunteers on the Citizens Review Board are so appreciative of, the police and for their professionalism and how they handle it, but also to the safety
yeah.
and the comfort and security they provide for these children.
Well, and we've all seen the, news articles about big city police departments. They show up and someone's having, a mental breakdown, and instead of knowing and being trained on how to handle it, what's the first thing they do? They tase them to death, or they beat them half to death. That's the last thing you need. But then at the same time, I'm a little leery of sending like crosswinds here locally. You probably don't need to go to some of these houses by yourself. We'll go with you in case things go sideways, but don't just be showing up there, because that's not good either.
And how's your relationship with them?
We get along great. Yeah, man, it's great that she's been helping us through all this training and getting us all certified, and she's got staff that work with us daily.
Do they have the largest car fleet in the?
Yes, they do. Here's a guy who pays attention. It blows my mind.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and how many?
They probably need it.
Well, what they said,
don't.
they had 200 because they just don't serve Lyon County. I think they got,
Devon County.
yeah, I mean, they got
Yeah.
200,
Yeah.
300 employees.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be up. That's how you want to become an officer. If anybody here wants a application, I'll hand them out to you.
Yeah, I'm sure we're the crowd you're looking for.
What?
You want
What's
one?
an application?
No. I'm gonna change something. What's the gender distribution in the Emporia Police Department?
We have a one female captain and one patrol female officer. Used to have 3, but 2 of them quit in 2022. Currently, we have one that is an applicant, a female, that we're probably going to hire. And as far as ethnicity goes as well, we got blasted with the BLM stuff, and I got sent all these questions, you're not a diverse police. Yes, we are. We have Hispanic officers. We just hired a black officer last week. We've got women, we've got an Indian officer, we've got a Japanese officer. I mean, we're well diverse for our town.
So it's a matter of applicants too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
that was my thing with Steve, because we talked about that on his show, and I can't make people come apply.
Yeah.
I can't do it,
I remember when I worked for the school district here, Diane Kramer was the HR director. And, we had one black teacher out of the whole district.
Yeah.
And she said, every single college visit I make, I reach out but like you said, you can't make them
No.
apply.
No, I mean, look at our town, look at the demographics of
Yeah.
our town. We're over 50% Hispanic now.
Yeah,
I'm not over 50% at the police department.
right.
Jeff's got, I think, 2 Hispanic deputies,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
what he did, and I think, the last statistic I saw, I think, what was our 3% Black Americans here? If we get one,
Yeah, You're overrepresented.
we're pretty good.
Do you recruit at the university?
Not so more, and I don't take that wrong, because today's world, the kids don't want to see you up there, they don't show up anyhow, they want to see it on here, and they want videos. So we do a lot of social media out push of recruit videos and hey, come work for
Or
us.
if someone were to ask you to make a presentation at the university, you could.
Okay, oh, yeah, oh, we go up there and teach classes,
Okay.
and in high school.
Michael, is there still the criminal justice?
Yes, in fact, there's a former police officer, Kristen,
Yeah,
who
Brendan.
is
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of our professors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also criminal forensics, or forensic science programs as well.
I was aware of the forensics.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think we went up and helped Kristen, I don't know if we teach the class, we give presentations about what we
Right.
do, and
Right, yep.
so, this,
We had a science teacher at Cameron, who taught, one of her classes was forensic.
Yeah.
Science, and they had this, first day of school was the crime scene, and then they processed it all through the year.
it's really neat what they've
Yeah.
done there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. This used to take weeks, like many weeks. I think I started the process in 1990 in April, and I got hired in October. But now with, we don't want to lose anybody, so we blast them through the testing, the physical and the polygraph and the background. We take our time on the background, but probably 2 weeks, not 8. And we give them a conditional offer of employment. They have to pass drug physical or drug screen, a physical, medical physical, and a physical abilities test, and a date with a psychiatrist down in Wichita. And
You
then
still
we'll
use a forced choice test?
do what?
You still use forced choice testing?
No, I mean, it starts with a W. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Yeah,
Gee,
oh, geez. Yes, sir.
this is a hard one. It's not meant to be insulting, okay? But I looked up some statistics before we came down here. The United States right now has 639 individuals per 100,000 incarcerated. We are number 1 in the world. We are, only El Salvador, Turkmenistan, Thailand, and Cuba are under us. We are number 1. This was brought home by my immigrant family. I had to ask my father-in-law 3 times to get married to my wife. Finally, I said, Dad, what in the world? 3 or 4 times I had to ask him. He says, I don't trust you Americans. You make children like dogs make puppies. That's what he said. Well, that's what he told me.
Yeah,
And I think that contributes to us being the number 1 worst nation in the world.
But we
for
also have a
incarceration.
tendency to incarcerate people for
Yeah.
mental illness issues and drug issues.
So we're still
things
number
that
1.
Most places in the world don't.
but I'll throw this out. When you go to the FBI National Academy, we have police officers from all over this world that come to us. And when they come here and they learn about our justice system from start to finish, and then they compare it to what they got. I can't make this up. We were in a class just talking about this, and I can't remember whether this guy was from, I don't know, some Asian country. Very nice guy. And so they were talking about guns and how we deal with gun crimes, and he stands up to give his presentation, and I don't take this wrong, I'm not making fun of him. He had a very hard accent, and he's like, if I go to call with man with gun, he's very dangerous. We fly in helicopter, we pick man up, we take him out, we throw him out of the helicopter.
Oh, my.
And we're all in there. What did you just say? And he was serious as a heart attack. He did it again. We had, geez, I wish I could remember the name of these countries, but this guy, we called him the captain because no one could pronounce his name. It was so long. Another great guy. And I talked to him one night and he's like, you have the best justice system in the world. I'm like, really? Because if you live here, people bash it all the time. He's like, no, in my country, if we don't like the state next to us, we shoot and kill each other. And no one goes to jail, no one's incarcerated. And if they do, we kill them.
My wife comes from a country she can't vote
Yeah,
because she's of an ethnic group that can't vote.
Really?
Right?
Huh. Now, I will say, and you hit it on the head, do we get carried away once in a while? Probably did in the eighties and nineties.
But that still is a terrible statistic.
It is terrible.
639 per 100,000. Yeah, for 100,000. That's the worst in the world.
so I have,
639, what,
I have a question, and
what's this, what's this, statistic, I guess, 639.
639 per 100,000 incarcerated
Oh.
is the number one worst in the world.
You know, related to that, I saw a brief report where Biden sent a letter to all state governors asking them to pardon marijuana possession people who are
That's a good
incarcerated.
point. Yeah,
yeah, that's why I said we
Part of that
incarcerate
is
a lot of
due to the
people.
rigor of what we,
that's right.
how our rules are structured.
That's right. Exactly.
Well,
I agree.
along those lines, I go to Mexico, try to go once a year with my wife, because she loves it down there. We go down to Cancun, I run into this guy who's selling jewelry on the beach. And I got befriended him after 3 or 4 days, drinking a couple Dos Equis and buying some silver from him. And I said, hey man, you ever been to America? And he's like, oh, no, I'm not going to America. I'm like, what? Why wouldn't you want to go to America, you know? It's the best country on the planet. And he's like, no, my friends, they go there, they come back there, you got too many rules. Too many rules. I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm telling you, it hit me like a brick. We do have too many rules. I mean, when did people start thinking for themselves and being told what to do? Now, don't take this wrong, but sometimes government can't get out of their own way. And this guy, well, I don't know if he even graduated high school. He's telling me that we've got too many rules, and we are a land of rules and more rules, and we got rules on top of rules. And sometimes even in my job, it's hard to keep up with it because we do stuff like that.
I taught at the high school for a while. Latinos had business cards for coyotes that for a certain amount of money, you could be brought anywhere in the United States. And they were business cards they'd hand out to people at the high school.
Crazy, isn't it?
That's hard to believe, isn't it?
Actually, not really, not that it's, well,
I guarantee it's true.
So relative to becoming an officer, you talked about getting state accreditation. Does that mean that officers are gonna become state commissioned officers? Okay,
it's just our department.
okay,
It's all policy driven and security and things that we have to do to report to the state that we do every year anyway, but it just makes it better.
okay.
They're not gonna be state certified.
I'm from.
Well, we
Missouri.
are state certified, but we are
Well,
not state.
Not state commissioned. I'm from Missouri where now it's just Kansas City PD. Used to be Kansas City and St. Louis were state commissioned officers.
Huh.
So effectively they had the same power as highway patrol.
Well, Kansas, or Topeka's got their state capital police are
Yeah,
state certified. They're like troopers.
yeah, but yeah, this in Kansas City, it is a totally different dynamic.
To Emporia, we got 14 more weeks with FTO training. So our rookies are really, they can barely ride a speeding ticket. We joke about that. I think I got made fun of too. Back in my day, the lieutenants didn't even want to know my name because they're like, yeah, you probably won't be here anyhow, so I don't want their name. But now I joke a little bit. We got really good field trainers and we got really good instructors at it. Our academy at Yoder, and couldn't be more proud of them.
Chief, this is a crazy question. So I'm out, on the turnpike, driving to Topeka. a car there, maybe a shooting range,
Yeah.
is that a practice?
That's,
facility?
that's Sheriff Cope's
Okay,
and, turnpike troopers use that.
okay.
And I live 5 miles north of town, but as a crow flies from that place, probably a mile. And, you know, I'll be sitting out on my deck drinking coffee with my wife and hear, bam, 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 I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking around, go running in the house, get my pistol. I'm like, who's shooting? Someone's shooting at us.
Well, that's what I thought.
And then when they get out of field training, they do a probationary period of 1 year and then they're on solo patrol, but then they're officially a 1 year police officer. Takes them about a year and a half.
In the course of a year, how many candidates will you have?
How many?
In candidates?
Well, this year we've got 5 already, which is good because last year we had nobody.
Do you all actively recruit at the university, for example?
Nah, no, because kids don't like that. They don't come to those career fairs no more. They want videos. They want everything right now on their phone.
Don't they have
Oh, they do.
well, I mean, I was thinking of don't we have a Department of Criminal Justice?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a great place for
Yes,
them?
yeah.
But you expect them to come to you, right?
No, we go to them. We go to them with social media.
Meet them in class.
We do.
Go to class.
We do.
Okay.
It blows my mind too. I'm as old school as you. I really am. I wrap my brain around this telephone. I can't do it. As soon as I retire, I'm throwing that in the lake somewhere and never gonna have another one.
You like to think that. Most of us here can tell you that's not gonna happen.
They took at least 15 to 20 minutes out of every class I had in high school. Constantly, routinely.
With what?
Cell phones would waste 15 to 20 minutes of every class period I had.
I went out to Susan Livingston's last year and gave a presentation out there with Sheriff Cope and I couldn't believe it. About lost my mind.
Yeah. But if you go to France or China, which I've been to, they forbid cell phones to be anywhere close to the
They
school.
should forbid them here,
That's right, exactly.
but no one
I went
listens
to
to me.
school board with that issue.
No one
And
listens to
lo and behold, they actually allowed us to pick them up.
Yeah.
Before that, we couldn't even pick them up.
You can't touch them now.
Really?
Nope.
That's why we now rank 37th in the industrialized world
You're
for ability
exactly
to
right.
educate.
And when
Yeah.
when you have
Big
school age
waste.
kids
Big
with their hoodies on,
Yeah,
with all you can see is their eyeballs and they're asleep.
Big
when-
waste.
Waste of time.
we had a cartoon up in the break room in the teacher's lounge that said, like, I don't know, 1975 or whatever, and it showed a kid with an F on a paper, and the teacher and the mother were pointing at the kid, pointing at the paper, and then it said 2015, and it showed the kid and the mother pointing at the teacher.
But isn't it refreshing that parochial schools don't go by those rules? They don't have to.
Yep.
And they're really drawing the best students,
Yes, they
and
are.
they should.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to learn.
Yeah.
I'm not bashing public education,
Well,
but,
it's
well, I mean, not to a
15 to
point.
20 minutes of every class.
I know
Every
what you're saying.
single class.
I've seen it and I'm like,
That's a function of the schools not being willing to address the
That's right.
parents.
right.
Parents are saying, you don't take that from my kid.
Right.
And,
I think there's. Oh, what is
Yeah,
it?
we'll
I
say
might, I
this.
might misspeak on this one. I don't know if you could. Think it was Pittsburgh or Parsons School District said no more phones.
No more
Well,
what?
No more phones.
Good for them.
we had a very good policy in Cameron that they still have. First of all, we have pockets, so that the minute you walk into class, the phone goes in the pocket.
Yeah.
If for some reason you told me that you didn't have your phone today and it goes off in class or whatever, if I take it, your parent has to come get it.
Yeah.
And an amazing number of parents in Cameron do not get off work in time to come get the phone. And sometimes it's there for a week before somebody can come get it. But I mean, that's just a function of the will of the administration of the school board. in Cameron, they were willing to have the fight,
That's wonderful.
and I'm sorry to hear that they're not in Emporia.
I bet their educational proficiency went up.
We've always
That-
ranked well with our proficiency,
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit.
and we can skip that one. I guess that's it.
Sweet.
I tell you what, that campus is amazing,
Where is that?
south of Yoder. Up by Hutch. When I went out there in 1990, I don't know, anybody here know Detective Mark Schonemeyer? Comes up to me one day and he goes, "Hey, Ricky, you just taking your sleeping bag out there?" Why? We sleeping in a tent? And he goes, "No, just trust me, take your sleeping bag, you're gonna need it." So it was the old Army Air Force base out there, and the barracks was where we slept. And it was mid-October when I went out there, and the first day it was really cold, and I'm laying in bed. And I look up and the curtains are, and I'm like, someone left the window open. No, the window was closed. That was absolutely horrible. But they have done a lot to that campus. It's very beautiful.
They've
And
got a,
they do a good job of training officers throughout the state.
KCPD has a training facility up north of the river, close to where I live. And it's a very nice facility, especially, it is literally right next to the Mormon temple that's up there.
And you're in KCMO, right?
Yeah,
Independence.
no, it's north of the river. It's on the way to the airport, if you're familiar with, heading up I-29. And it's, you know, they've got the rat race course for teaching defensive driving and stuff. But I swear to God, and I'm one of those retirees who sometimes has trouble sleeping in the middle of the night. I will be out on my balcony and I will hear at like 2:30 in the morning. It's gotta be training, cause I'll hear like half a dozen just whipping down 169, which is literally right over the hill. You can see all the lights flashing and stuff. And then about 45 minutes later, here they all come back north. Yeah, they're getting some practice. You know, they go down to the downtown airport, and probably talk about it and
Oh, yeah.
whip back up.
Well, that's all I got for the slideshow.
Thank you.
Hopefully it was
Yeah.
very informative.